So, let's casually jump on this trend. A Pokemon Nuzlocke, for those of you who still don't know, is a set of self-imposed rules set up to make the game harder. They basically boil down to these three things. Number 1, you can only catch the first Pokemon you run into on each route. If you walk into Route 1 and run into a Pidgey, but you fail to catch it, that's it. There's no second chance. You failed. Number 2, you have to nickname all of your Pokemon so you become more attached to them. You've got to feel something when Harambe the Weedle takes a crit but lives on 1 HP. Number 3, if your Pokemon faints, it is considered no longer alive, and therefore you can no longer use it. To add to the challenge of this, I avoided healing in gym battles, and I made the battle style set. This variety of Nuzlocke is something special because it involves eggs. In an Egglocke, you trade the encounters that you get on the various routes for an egg that's in your box. The new eggs then become your party members. You go on a journey getting all attached to your little Eggy boys. For this Egglocke, I had my friends of all different Pokemon knowledge send in Pokemon. They got to pick the name of the Pokemon, the moveset, and if they weren't sure about something, a random number generator decided the rest. With intros out of the way, let's jump into Pokemon Emerald. After being toppled for miles by falling boxes in the back of a moving van, I'm greeted by my mother outside of our new home in Little Root. Mom makes me set a clock my dad got me before making me be social by greeting the neighbors. I'm introduced to May. Her dad is a scientist and she plans to help him science. Stay in school, kids. I leave May's house and head north where I hear a ruckus, only to find the professor being attacked. He tells us to grab a Pokeball from his bag and help him. We pick Mudkip and beat up a dog or a raccoon. I don't remember which it is as I'm writing this. We return to the professor's lab only for him to gift me with the Mudkip and tell us to meet up with May on Route 103. But before we go up there, we shove Mudkip into the PC for our actual starter. I used a wheel spinner and a random number generator to determine our eggs. And for our first boy we will get attached to, we got Tongue the Shelter. Tongue makes mincemeat of May's Trico, we get Pokeballs in the Dex, and our mom gifts us with some Vans off the wall as our Nuzlocke journey officially begins. We get all 3 of our first encounters, resulting in the Surskit, cause Twig the Bellsprout, and Ugly with Potential the Magikarp. I won't cover every hatched mon, but for the start you get why I'm covering all this biz, I'm sure. We meet up with our dad in Petalburg and are introduced to the most on the brink of death child in the Pokemon universe, Wally. I don't listen to anything he says as he catches his Ralts and push on to Petalburg Woods, where I meet a guy being harassed for looking for mushrooms, and then we meet a member of Team Aqua. That name definitely isn't important, so we press on to Rustboro City. We hatch a few eggs along the way, so our current squad is Tongue, the Hat, Twig, Tuesday, Bill Cosby, and Dongle. At this time, I would like to remind everyone that my friends picked these names. I had nothing to do with their decisions. Gym trainers all beat up and we decide to take on Roxanne. Here's how that went. Our first death. A tragedy. We are now fighting in remembrance of Twig. Hey, don't steal the thing. So Team Aqua not only stole tax documents, but like a literal bird. I wasn't going to let that slide. I beat him up and rescue Mr. Briney's bird. He's so grateful that he offers to drive us around on his boat, which we just so happen to need to do. Onward to Dewford. We catch Pokemon, hatch eggs, and come up with our new team to take on Brawly. Wanshitong, Tongue, Anal Beads, Tuesday, and Bill Cosby. Here's how the gym went. Wanshitong tries, but the bulk up Machop becomes a problem. I switch in Anal Beads to begin dealing with the chop, and despite focus energying up and having an easier time to crit, I don't get a crit until the 3rd Fury attack. Bill Cosby switches in and gets big punched in the face twice and dies. Not what I wanted to happen, so Tongue switches in to try and avenge Bill. A clutch Supersonic makes Metatite look like a Metachump, and last comes Makahita. Another clutch Supersonic and switch to Tuesday make Makahita do nothing and makes me the winner. We deliver a package to Steven before the gym, so we asked Mr. Briney to take us to Slateport to deliver ship plans, I think. But we go to a museum and meet up with the leader of Team Aqua, Archie, who threatens a literal child despite being a grown man. More catching later, and we meet up with May. She, of course, wants to battle, so I say fine, and we mop the floor with her. We get to Mauville City, and in front of the gym, there's a weirdly familiar sick child who battles us with a Ralts. I make quick work of him, and his uncle thanks me for emotionally scarring his nephew. It's what I do. Next up is our fight with Watson, which goes less than ideal. First, Voltorb paralyzes Honda, but I take him out just after. Electrike gets taken out by Honda as well, but switching in Magneton makes me switch in KFC. And I'm stuck with a ton of damage. I try to double kick, but he gets a max damage roll and takes out KFC. Into Seth Ballou, and I break my own rule? I healed. Admittedly, I don't remember when I put the rule in place because, I made the decision later. But if I've already lost the run in your eyes, I understand. I didn't catch it until I reviewed the footage, but I beat Watson with an asterisk, I guess. Nothing majorly crazy happens again until Meteor Falls, where we run into Team Magma. Team Magma is bullying a nerd over a rock, and just when I think I'm going to have to step in, Archie shows up and says, "Eat piss, red guys." His words, not mine. The chase then begins as we head to Mount Chimney, where we meet Team Magma's boss, Maxie. Maxie's whole bid is expanding land so more people are forced to go outside and touch grass. We are forced yet again to take on a criminal organization and swiftly beat Maxie and jump down the mountain to take on Flannery. Flannery leads off with Nummel and me with DeSantis the Crocodile. Once again, I do not support any political commentary or views represented by my friends with their nickname choices. Funny name guy comes in and barely lives a water gun to then be a nuisance and set up light screen and sun. 3 scratches take him out and in comes camera up. I opt to stay in and bite for a flinch, and instead, DeSantis fell in love. I switch in Dragonfly and she doesn't fall in love, confirming Dragonfly is not a lesbian. Because of her non-lesbian lifestyle, the overheat takes out Dragonfly and in comes Tongue to clean up. All that remains is the Torkoal. I get off a supersonic expecting a sunny day, but Torkoal's only plan was murder, and I lost Tongue. Our starter was 3 levels from evolving, but couldn't resist the damage output coming from overheat. Honda came in and avenges the lad with a crit earthquake. I go visit my dad after my tragic loss, and he hits me with some tough love as he's the next gym leader in our path to become the champion. He leads with Spinda and I lead with Honda. Honda flinches the Spinda just to get encored the following turn, forcing a switch. I'm not too afraid, so I go into the hat. He gets confused. I switch into Honda again. He gets confused. He predicts the switch and I stay in and punch myself in the face. Then he busts out Psybeam out of nowhere, which mildly scares me, but I snap out of confusion and break his tiny body. Vigoroth hits me with a slash, but no crit means Honda smacks his booty too. Lanoon comes in and I know I gotta switch. DeSantis comes in and swiftly gets murdered by a crit. Well, ding dong, the witch is dead? I send in the hat and Lanoon takes the opportunity to belly drum. I'm only terrified of what comes next, but I have a secret. It's called para hacks. Norman has better hacks, though, called critical hits, meaning no more hats. Honda's Brick Break takes out the Lanoon, so all that's left is slacking. I make a massive mistake and accidentally switch in Tuesday while I was trying to see its defensive stat. I thought Tuesday would be lost, but my boy is bulky and lived. And I got a clean switch into Heracross with a master plan that couldn't fail. Heracross had Endure, that was a priority move, so when Slacking would attack, I would always Endure, then I could Brick Break freely on its Truant turns. Slacking got overexcited and spammed counter, so my plan worked even better than expected, but I didn't know the guy had Yawn, so my strategy was 100% luck. And it honestly is not something I recommend in your Egglock runs. But we beat our dad and are now the breadwinner of the family. On the road again with some quick stops at an abandoned shipwreck and a visit to restart a generator for Watson, and then it's time to try and get our 6th gym badge, and we get stopped by Team Aqua and more weather crap. I'm getting pretty tired of the weather back and forth, so I stop their dumbness, I beat up May, I get cool goggles, and I take on Winona. I had another brilliant strategy for Winona when the time came, but to kick things off, we have Protagonist versus Swablu. I electrocute it. Altaria comes in and I fear for my life. Strategy is a go. I switch in Robert Ross, the Smeargle, and thank him for his sacrifice as I only needed a clean switch. She goes for Dragon Dance and I go for quad effective Icy Wind. It's a 2-hit KO until her dumb berry pops off. I'm praying for a high roll, and Lady Luck shine down on me. Altaria down. Tropius in. Quad effective, 2-hit KO until I crit like a mad lad. Next mon is Pelipper. Back into Protagonist, and I cook this water bird alive. Final bird is Skarmory, and without fear, I click Thunderbolt again to secure this gym badge. We start the trek towards Lily Cove, and wouldn't you know, we run into Team Aqua headed for Mount Pyre. I decide to ignore their antics this time in order to catch more and hatch more. I run into and have to beat up May in order to do some shopping. Then I realize the water boys and girls have blocked the path forward with some fat whales. I turn around and head for Mount Pyre, climb the interior first, which turns out to be a mistake as my ambitions dies to a double battle against Wobbuffet and Sableye. So much for planning ahead for Tate and Liza. On top of Mount Pyre, Archie's going on and on about the game sphere from that one episode of Drake and Josh that he stole from an old couple standing on top of a mountain cemetery. Team Aqua runs away, but not before I get the Magma emblem, and thus begins the mostly bad guy section of this adventure. Team Magma's base is located in the volcano that is Mount Chimney, and we locate the center of the spicy place to find Maxie with a blue game sphere from that one episode of Drake and Josh, trying to get Groudon to play it with him. Groudon walks towards Maxie and then straight leaps out of the magma in a single bound. Maxie assumes we somehow supplied Groudon with the Air Jordans to make such a big jump and demands a fight. I easily beat him up and he leaves to find Groudon to see if he'd rather play Minecraft. We return to Slateport to see our friend Captain Stern. He invented a submarine, which has never been done before somehow, and wouldn't you know it, we run into Team Aqua stealing his invention. Being the smart boy I am, I realized they probably went to prep their plans at their base in Lily Cove. I work my way through the technology that is the warping teleportation just to get stalled by an admin and watch Archie escape. With nothing else we can currently do, we head towards Moss Deep, do more of that egg hatching stuff, and take on Tate and Liza. Our original plan for the twins was Bork and Stapler, Dark type for Xatu and Water type for the other three. Crunch and Surf. I get confused, but I still break through, right? Indeed I do. The rocks come out and sadly it doesn't go as planned because of the face punching. I see the rock's sun absorb light and I predict a solar beam on Stapler. I switch into Brett Farf to resist it, but it turns out the dog days were in fact over. Arwen comes in as Brett takes on an overpowered psychic. I have to attack again, but Iron Tail misses and Brett goes down to another psychic. I send in Sleepy Boy and just start punching. Arwen hits his Iron Tail this time, realizing the mistake he made, and all that remains is Soul Rock. Iron Tail, Ice Punch, clean up, and we gain our 7th badge. We catch wind that Team Magma is marching on the space station, so we head there and team up with Steven to end their plans to steal rocket fuel and send it into Mount Chimney. Rocket fuel can't melt steel beams, dummy. Now armed with the ability to dive underwater like a submarine, we dive underwater and find a submarine. We have to work our way through a cave, but we find Archie asking Kyogre to play his Game Sphere, as it is spherical, to play Echo the Dolphin. I warn Archie that game is terrifying and it could scare Kyogre, but he tries to beat me up, claiming blasphemy. We take care of his team easily, and Kyogre realizes how spooky Echo the Dolphin is and straight dips before the game's loading screen pops up. As he is confused, Maxie walks up to berate Archie for his decision as if he didn't make the same damn one like an hour ago. The world is consumed by a tremendous downpour and scorching sunlight at the same time, and we go to Setopolis to discover that it's being caused by Kyogre and Groudon arguing over whose turn it is to use the Xbox. Steven introduces us to a man named Wallace. Wallace informs us that all of this has happened before, and the best way to stop it is to find Rayquaza. He asks us if we know where Rayquaza might reside, and we say Sky Pillar, as it's the only place we haven't been to on the list of options that he gives us. We discover the entrance to Sky Pillar, climb to the top, and meet Rayquaza, who realizes that those idiots are interrupting his nap. So he takes off to Sootopolis, and we are treated to the most legendary cutscene on the Game Boy Advance. And oh my gosh, Rayquaza Randy Orton's his way down into the ring to stop both of these behemoth creatures with one quick yell. With that, Archie and Maxie realize they oopsied and run away, not having to pay for their crimes at all. What the heck? With all of that done, we are able to take on Juan and try and earn our final gym badge. We came prepared with a secret weapon this time too. He leads with Love Disc, and I try and shock it to death. He brings out Wish Cash, knowing I can't shock it to death, so Gex comes in and my Leaf Sword knocks him out. Celio is next, and with the fear of an ice move, I go ahead and send in Protagonist again. Celio loses his kidney and Crawdaunt comes in, but he wasn't a match for the kidney donation and he dies on the operating table as well. Last up is Kingdra, and this is where everything went wrong. Starts off with a Thunder Wave and he goes for Double Team. I send in our secret weapon. The HP Dragon Unknown. He hits exactly once and the bit turns out beautiful. I send in Gex to Leech Seed and he goes for Double Team again. I send in Stapler, realizing that Water Pulse and Ice Beam can't take me out, but that's when disaster strikes. Its last move is Rest. He gets back to full and spams Double Team again. So now my only consistent damage is Leech Seed. Just when I think I'm making progress, I get confused by Water Pulse and frozen by Ice Beam. And then he rests again. And then this battle just went on for 15 minutes, including more confusions, freezes, rests, and potions. I might have forced him to run out of rest PP, but a crit rapid spin secures the gym badge, and we are ready for Victory Road and then the league. We run into the boy who lived one last time, and with his swift defeat, we've completed Victory Road and set out to take on the Pokemon League with our new team. Posted, the Dragonair, soon to be Dragonite. Walks, the Furret. Worm, the Arbok. Protagonist, the Raichu. Sexy, the Swampert. And Rosie, the Breloom. Each member had a specific role they were meant to play in this finale, and the idea of who would be sacked if needed was in play. First stop, Sydney. Protagonist leads against Mighty Anna, and a T-Bolt quick attack combo knocks him out. Shiftry comes in, and I send in Rosie, who gets swaggered. I decide to stay in and sky uppercut, not expecting the extra sensory. Luckily, I don't hit myself, and I knock the Shiftry out. Absol's in, and I'm too nervous to leave Rosie in, so Protagonist comes back out. He gets aced, but shocks Absol in return. Brick Break and T-Bolt combine to knock him out, and Cacturn comes in. Worm comes in and gets slowed down by Cotton, but upchucking some poison gets rid of the cactus. Last up is Crawdon, and I have Worm give him a funny look before switching into Post-it to resist any water moves and T-Bolt the crab guy. First battle is a win with no casualties. Ghost Gal Phoebe is up next. She leads Dusclops and I lead Walks. The whole idea behind bringing Furret was to sub and Shadow Ball everything pretty freely. Since I would outspeed and Shadow Ball was physical back then, it seemed like a perfect fit. Dusclops get two-shot by it, but then she PP stalls me with pressure and double protect. That's really annoying, but we move on. Banette comes in and gets KO'd by a crit dig and Shadow Ball combo. Sableye was my unexpected struggle because of double team. My digs were not doing enough to take her out, so I was stuck with limited options. I switch in Rosie to resist Feint Attack and hope Giga Drain will take Sableye out if it hits, but sadly it leaves it on a sliver of HP and I have to do more switching, so I send in Worm. I'm forced to switch again into Post-it Note, and at this point my team is weak. Post-it finally knocks out the Sableye and Dusclops 2 comes in. I predict the Protect again and try and switch Walks in, but I catch an Ice Beam to the face. Walks is insane though and lives on 1 HP to get one more Shadow Ball off before it faints to an EQ. Sexy comes in and hits a track to try and slow Dusclops down, but Ghosts don't love apparently. I hit 2 Surfs and finish it off regardless. Banette 2 is in and a Surf T-Bolt combo beats Phoebe. A lot harder, but on to the next. Glacia brings out Celio and Protagonist hits it with a T-Bolt, but it lives on 1. Hail gets set up and Blizzards are now 100% accurate. Quick attack, T-Bolt, and her first mana's down. Glalie comes in and I switch to Worm to get off an Intimidate as she goes for Light Screen. I go for and miss Glare, and my speed gets lowered by Icy Wind. I'm now slower than her, and she hits me with an Ice Beam before I finally hit Glare. This forces a switch into Sexy to take another Ice Beam while I go for the EQ. Speed control is the name of the game because now Sexy is too slow. Celio 2 comes in and I go back to Protagonist and watch the hail fall again. I Brick Break expecting T-Bolt not to kill again, and she hits me with a Blizzard and freezes me. 10% chance really got me there. Despite not wanting to switch, I go into Sexy. Double Edge instead of Blizzard lets me live, but I misclick Surf instead of EQ. Luckily, Celio misses Blizzard in the hail. EQ takes him out, and now Glalie 2 comes in. Sadly, I lose Sexy to an Ice Beam in the next turn. I send in Rosie thinking she will outspeed, but I instead get outsped and she goes down. Worm comes in and gets a Glare off before the Ice Beam knocks him out. All I have left is Post-it and a frozen Protagonist. And Post-it tries, but fails to take out the Glalie before Glacia heals again. Glacia clicks one more Ice Beam and our run doesn't come to technically an end, but morality comes to a standstill. I have more Pokemon and more teams that I can make, but a limited amount of rare candies left in my game, so I said I would go until the rare candies were gone, and Team 2 became Honda the Hariyama, Sleepy Boy the Alakazam, Tyler from Kindergarten the Charizard, Gex the Sceptile, Arwen the Gliscor, and Hole Punch the Snorlax. I won't do each battle, but run 2 went like this. Charizard got swaggered and hit itself in confusion to die against Sydney. Snorlax swept for the most part against Phoebe. Honda swept Glacia and avenged his fallen friends, including a crit on Walrein. I got to Drake's last Mon, not expecting a Kingdra, and then lost Sleepy Boy to a crit body slam. The champion versus 4 Mons, but sadly, I only make it through 2 Mons before Hole Punch dies to Ludicolo's Surf. I thought a super effective aerial ace would take him out, but he lives and Arwen dies to Surf. Honda misses a Brick Break because of double team and dies to Giga Drain. Gex is all that's left and he takes out the Ludicolo, but Milotic hits Gex with Ice Beam and thus ends run 2. We did try one more time, but it was a lost run before it even started, so I'm not even going to go over it. Regardless, we lost my hardest Pokemon challenge to date to Glacia / the champion, and it stings. I will have a chance to return to a journey like this at some point down the road, but for now, that's the end of this one. I want to send a huge thanks to all of my friends who sent in eggs for this adventure. It was so much fun getting other people involved in my content, and I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your lives to get me all the information you did. For now, though, we say goodbye to Emerald. Let's see where our journey takes us next.